our absolute pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Tripti. So I'll begin with a brief introduction. Dr. Tripti Singh is the founder and principal consultant at Drishtikon Consultants. She comes with a rich experience of about 24 plus years in the area of human resources and organization development. Her experience blends from different perspectives, be it HR operations, HR and OD consulting, and leadership development. She dons multiple hats as a trainer, an entrepreneur, academic faculty, and researcher. She has been full-time faculty at IIM Bangalore, IIMK, and Goa Institute of Management, and is a regular visiting faculty across premier B schools in India. She has led HR, OD, and leadership development vertical at the Group Center of Corporates like Tata Services, Aditya Birla Management Corporation, amongst others. She has designed and delivered 275 plus workshops on varied topics and has been a consultant for strategic HR, culture change, OD interventions, and L&D for more than 50 plus startups, SMEs, and MNCs. And also, well, she's a certified executive coach and has coached over 700 plus executives and senior business leaders. She is accredited as the trainer for corporate governance by the International Forum of Corporate Governance. She is licensed on 16 psychometric tools and has published widely in national, international journals and conference proceedings. She is also an independent board member for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. And currently, she is also engaged with the National Skill Development Corporation for OD and HR consulting around driving the cultural change and leadership development. And with this, I would like to invite Dr. Tripti to share her insights on a wide spectrum of important topics related to HR and its role in the success of an organization. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Samiksha, and thank you, Saurabh. It's Ritika and Ashmita for inviting me for this session. I'm really happy to be part of, talking to you all, and hopefully I'll give some meaningful insights on the topic. And let me share my screen for better discussion as so the topic that are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, Dr. Tripti.
Should I do it full screen? Okay.
It's not on full screen yet.
It's not yet on the full screen. Yes. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Great. So the topic that you all have requested me to talk about is thinking like a CHRO. And here, I mean, when we talk about CHRO, who is a CHRO? I mean, Chief Human Resource Officer that we talk, we do all understand the details about it. But what are the general role and expectations of a CHRO? I would like you all to give your views on this same. Who is a CHRO in your view? Anyone?
I'll give a try. So I think CHRO is the...
You want to say something?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. So I think CHRO is the person who is responsible for ensuring that the business runs as usual. And by usual, I don't just mean that they survive, but actually thrives. Mm-hmm. While keeping in mind that its most important resource and the most, so to say, the most unpredictable resource, which is human beings, are also their dreams and aspirations also gets fulfilled on the way, that they don't get disengaged while running the business as usual.
Okay. So, as rightly said by Ashmita, is human resource is the most difficult and the most complex resource of all the resources that we talk for businesses or we need for business. As a CHRO, you are the chief, main person who is focused on, especially about the people aspects of business. That has been the expectations around CHRO, is that the person will be able to manage any people issues, encourage people do, create policies and practices which would be suitable for the individuals working in the organization so that they'll be happy, and also leading people issues and challenges that would be there related to recruitment, assessments, performance management, training and development. All those things would be taken care by a CHRO or a HR expert. And however, the role of CHRO when we are talking about a chief human resource management has been undergoing changes over a period of time. Initially from managing operations, managing people, now it has become very strategic role. It has changed and it's become a strategic role. When I say that it is a strategic role, because over a period of time, businesses have realized that managing human resource is the key for business success. Because as what Ashmita had said earlier, is that there are human resource is a resource which is the most complex of all the resources that we require for business development, business growth, or running a business. So initially, what would happen is that the role of CHRO was also taken care by the family-owned, the owner of the family. The person would decide who to recruit, what money to give to any individual who is working, how to engage the person, retain the person, or fire the person. So largely, entire HR work was taken care by either the owner himself or maybe a person who used to give salaries. So it was like the finance person, so or accountant who would manage all the issues related to people. Earlier, I'm talking about age-old practices of HR. And that's the reason that the role of CHRO has been evolving, and it has grown to the extent, as we talk further, we will understand that it is no more just managing HR operations. It is much beyond HR now. I would not just say much beyond operations, but I'm saying much beyond HR also, human resource management that we consider. So the role has been changing, and let's see what are the key expectations and drive that are needed, challenges that are faced by CHRO or a person who is leading the function of managing people across, managing people asset, I would say, managing people resource in the organization. So the first point I'm talking about is balancing competing priorities. Now, what are some of the priorities that a CHRO has to, take up? And why I'm saying that they are competing with each other. Anybody would want to share their views on it? What are some of the competing priorities of a CHRO?
I think one of the most common competing priorities for a CHRO could be, balancing organization growth with resource optimization. So there's always a pressure to assess whether you are overspending or underspending on resources, and at the same time there is a pressure to drive growth. So
at the same time, sorry,
you have pressure to drive growth, which means should you hire more people or bring into the organization, or should you focus more on capability building, which again requires some investments to be made. So, and then there is sometimes the pressure of maximizing profits. So then you start looking at HR as a cost head, and which usually tends to be so. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So what Saurav is talking about is that there are various, whether to give focus on the cost priorities, or when we are talking about organizational growth or people development, or usually when we talk about human resource management, we consider it to be an investment portfolio, though it is considered to be a huge cost portfolio. The change that we need to make is that we have to look at from the investment portfolio for which we are looking for returns. And the way when we are talking about competing priorities, yes, do we need more people to do a business or the work that is required, or we have to enhance profitability? So that is again two priorities. Yes, we want to grow business, enhance profitability, but at the same time, we need to have a balance, work-life balance, or people should be performing effectively. What is that fine balance of performance and the growth kind of investment that we want to make? What is a fine balance between the learning opportunity for individuals and the organizational priorities or the customer's requirement that have to be fulfilled immediately in the, as per to run the organization effectively? So there are different kinds of priorities that a CHRO is dealing with, which is around making people happy. Now, people happy who are working with the organization, and also maintaining, different kinds of talents in the organization. If everyone has to be generally given, incentives and growth, how would a high talented person would be motivated? How that person would be driven? So how to make that, keep that balance and keeping everyone happy, even the investors, the business leaders, and the people who are working. And investors and business leaders are also human beings. So there are various priorities that a CHRO is dealing with, and they are usually competing in nature. So, and therefore, that is a great challenge that a CHRO is dealing with. Then what I said a few minutes back is about employee value proposition versus employer value proposition. With how do we balance the employee value proposition? What is employee value proposition when I'm talking about? Is that whether the employee is finding the work challenging, interesting, is liking the place where the person is working, is able to see the growth in the organization, or fulfilling his other requirements, maybe what for the person is working. The person may be working for money, the person may be working for family satisfaction, person may be working for doing the work which are challenging and interesting, and where the person finds meaningful meaning in his work and work. So how do we balance that desire of every individual who is working in the organization, who has, and these desires are varied, and at the same time, the employer who is looking for organizational growth, success, more revenue, more spreading the business across, different geographies, different areas. So both require spending of finances, or and the resources, financial resources are limited. So how do we balance the two? How do we make the best use of the resources that we have to lead the organization? So that is also competing priorities where CHRO is facing the challenge day by day. Aligning business metrics with people metrics. Again, it is about what Saurav was talking about in terms of how many people to employ, and at the same time be profitable. So how do we have that manpower planning, budgeting, kind of resources, kind of salaries that we are giving, and competing with the external world who are also in the same area, in the industry, in the business. So those matrices, how do we keep a balance and align it with the business metrics as both moving the same direction, that is of growth? So how do we align that? That is also a key challenge for a CHRO. Then definitely overcoming the business challenges, environmental challenges. There are various kind of challenges that occur, both economic as well as when we see current challenge lately we all experienced about say COVID situation was unusual situations. At the same time, environment challenges are also related to competitions coming from the moment in 1990s the economy opened, the competitions and coming from the external world, the expertise, the quality of the product, the way one is marketing the product, or how how one is acquiring the market share in the and the profitability, enhancing profitability, the margins that are there for the product or services that we are offering. So overcoming these challenges are also very critical for any CHRO. Talent war, we all understand. Talent war is big challenge because lately we have all seen how IT people were recruited at such high cost by organizations, and now there are again retrenchment of those people. But when you are talking about talent, we are talking about the best talent that is fit for your organization. So it is, how do we assess talent? How do we recruit talent? How do we satisfy them to stay with us? How to make them happy, perform, and grow? It's the entire bit is around talent war, where organizations are constantly trying to retain good talent who are best fit for the organization, who know about not just about the business, but are doing great, having great ideas, great skill sets to manage or take the organization ahead. One of the challenges that we all miss about CHRO is staying ahead of talent psychology. Why I'm talking about talent psychology is because with different generations, the psychology of the talent is changing. Each generation has their own set of requirements, own set of preferences. If as a CHRO, you are fixed with what you have experienced, what you think is the right way to manage people, it would be a very difficult situation, because the Gen Z today requires more flexible working, requires more challenging work, requires meaningful work, and requires multiple, what we are talking about, moonlighting, multiple sources of income. And if we are still stuck with either, one mode of way of doing work, unless until we understand the psychology well, why is the new generation asking for or having such demands, and if what is the possibility, that is very important. So understanding that psychology makes CHRO, it is a constant challenge for a CHRO to stay ahead of the talent that they are dealing with, because new generation is coming and the older generations are there. There is always a gap of understanding things. How do we align the different generations and take everyone along? Because there is a benefit of younger people, new blood coming in with new ideas, new knowledge, new skill sets, which is very natural to the new generation, which could be, say, technology. But for the older generation, which brings in more of experience, poise, understanding, in-depth knowledge, which is there. But how do we balance it? How do we bring that change or that right balance where the best is being followed? Now, as I talked about change, driving change with change of generation, change of technology, change of context, change of business context, not just with respect to competitors or economic environment, but also in terms of connectivity. So when we are taking example of, say, the changing business context now, the things which were not possible, say when we are talking about online meeting or the conferences like these, which were not possible earlier, are possible now. Those have made it more easy for organizations to practice hybrid working or hybrid teamwork that is there. But how do we drive change? How do we make the best use of the context? Suppose if you are taking example of the hybrid working or work from home, now but there are challenges only working from home. There are challenges only working from the office location. How do we create that right balance between the two, the benefits and adjust to the disadvantages that are there? What are the new ways to do it? So these are the constant challenge a CHRO is facing. Then definitely fostering desired culture that we are talking. Challenges that a CHRO is facing is to foster desired culture. Now, culture is defined by every human being. Now we are talking every human being, every behavior that is displayed by individual is adding to the culture of the organization. How do we channelize that culture? It's like a river flowing. How do we channelize the river and make it a culture that we desired, which is supportive for the business growth, business environment, enhancing the employer branding that we're talking about, or making people happy and willing to do their best to the work that they are getting to do. So that's a constant challenge that a CHRO is facing. And then definitely employer branding. How to make the organization so attractive for everyone willing to join in. It is not just about money. It is also making the environment of that organization so attractive and brand the organization in such a way that people want to come in and join, or the talent would want to come and join. And there is a flow of talent which the CHRO has to assess and retain and make them happy. So when we're talking about these challenges that a CHRO is facing day by day, what are the things that a CHRO should be, or how to think about all these challenges? What are the how a CHRO will be effective with all these challenges around? What are the limitations when we are not looking at the situation in a certain way? We will just talk about those things in a way. So I'll bring out a couple of points that I think are very important. One of the key things that I would say to think like a CHRO, it is very important to understand the business in totality. Now, when we are talking about business in totality, is not just about knowing what the business is producing or what the business is offering to the market, what are the products. It's not just that about that. We all would know about it when we are joining a particular organization. It is much beyond that. It is much beyond it. It is understanding the customers, the suppliers, the competitors, economic business environment for that specific business, business trends and forecast, industry challenges that are in which that organization is working. So it is very, very important that if you have to be a CHRO, you have to understand the business in totality, which means much beyond what we offer to the market or the product that we are, or services that we are giving to the market. We have to understand who from where our resources are coming. Say raw materials. What are the challenges, environmental challenges related to raw material? What are the legal or the compliance around raw materials? So various details about all about business. It should be on tip of the CHRO. CHRO is no more only related to people. In fact, the CHRO will be more effective if only if he knows about the business, because that the label that most business operations guy put on any HR professionals is that you don't know the business. And that, unless until you give reasonings around the business and give suggestions with the full knowledge of business, people will not be listening to you. So important thing to think like a CHRO, you have to understand the business in totality, test and align people's strategy by thinking like a CEO, COO, CFO, CTO, and definitely CMO. So all right from marketing, finance, operations, technology, and from the business perspective, you will have to understand why I'm talking about technology or finance is also because unless until you understand the finance of related to it, not just about business, but also about the people that you are dealing with, number of people, what is the cost of hiring, the HR metrics and analytics kind of numbers, that is, unless it is on your tip with respect to the cost of it. And you would not be able to justify your demands related to, people development or investing on any activities which are related to engagement or making people happy. So you have to have a mindset where you are talking about returns on the investment. And that is where you are looking at from the business perspective. Always think of any initiative that you're doing as with the returns on investment. What are the priorities of CEO, CFO, and how to lead and coach them in achieving their objectives? Not just supporting. You are no more just a support role. You are giving healthy challenges to them and also challenging oneself as a people leader. What you are doing is you are challenging them when they are saying no to your request for, say, for financial resources, when they are getting into cost cutting. When suppose if they are going on cost cutting, one of the first thing that we see is removal of people. How do you challenge that? How do you suggest that this is going to be in long term, it is going to be a very disadvantageous for the firm? You need to bring out the balance sheet and understand the future, and accordingly bring about the cost and benefits of the short-term impact and the long-term impact. So you are not just about talking about the current, yes, by removing specific position, these are not so important, we will be able to save money. Maybe those positions, as we require for a particular business, we require for future, and they will be very costly and costlier than the amount that we would have spent to retain them or put them on bench. At the same time, it could also be that we will not get such resources because it is creating a brand image in the organization that we tend to lay off people. What are the other ways, when we are talking about different creative ways to not go on the extremes of laying off people? So one has to think broadly. One has to think in future with numbers, with facts, with figures, and also then only you will be able to convince the business. And it has to be in line with the business. One has to stay ahead of time as to think like a CHRO. What do we mean by staying ahead of the time? To stay ahead of the time, we all know that these are the key business resources, financial resources, physical resources, intellectual resources, and human resources. And the most averse to change or sticky to comfort zone is the human resource. All these resources, financial, physical, or even intellectual, where we are, creating new product or having IPO, or we are having, these all can change. But human resource is the one which is the most, they are resistant to change. They don't want to change. So in order to be able to drive change or bring about new changes, one has to stay ahead of the time. And why I say stay ahead of the time is because you need to be visionary to be an effective CHRO. Visualize the future trends. People should have realized that, okay, working from home realize the effectiveness of working from home, or the financials of working from home should have been realized much before the pandemic. But why it had to be, when a pandemic had to come, and then people realized that, yes, it is possible to get the work done from home. There is so much of saving with reductions of office space or admin costs and other things. So to be an effective CHRO, you have to visualize the future business trends, future environment trends, future talent trends, their psychology, and how that is would impact human resources. You have to plan and stay ahead. Then only you will be more effective. So effective CHRO, to be an effective CHRO, you have to think ahead of time, because the human resource is the only resource which is very averse to change and likes living in comfort zone most of the time. So they are the most resistant to change and the most difficult to change. Thus, the need of the hour is to move from being a support service, doing what was or is asked to do, to be a business leader. Stepping in the shoes of a business leader, that is the most important for a CHRO, to realize that to think like a CHRO, you have to be a business leader first. And even as a leader, when we are talking about, you have to be a transformational leader, where you are showing the larger business possibility through people. For others or followers, that others and followers are not able to see. A transformational leader is always able to show the goals which others are not able to see. So that is the vision that you need to have as a CHRO, especially related to the people trends, people psychology, economic business trends, business challenges, because all that has impact on human resources, and human resources is the key. And I'll tell you why I'm saying human resources is the key in a while. The second way is either to be a transformation leader or be a servant leader, influencing and leading from behind. Even though when we are talking about leading, either you can be in front, or you could be the influencer who is not necessarily in the limelight, but you are actually driving the business from behind, telling people what are the future things, how you should be how do you motivate people, how do you coach people, how do you prepare managers to lead people. All that is important for a CHRO to look at. So often as CHRO, one gets stuck into rigidity of defined policies, so-called the best practices. Why I say that is that we have norms, this is the time that you have to come, this is the way you have to do a particular job, and we try to follow those policies. And here, we should realize as a CHRO that policies are just guidelines. We don't have to make them our handcuffs. or try to cast the mass into a mold. Not everyone is, you have to realize that there are different psychology. People are coming to work to do work. Very few people are coming to just while away time or with some other, unless and until people are, if we realize that people who are not working are not working for some reasons which we need to mend, we need to have that kind of a mindset. Then only we will be able to, drive people to do the best, make people our assets, or I would say competitive business advantage. So we have to look at from, as a CHRO, we need to focus on the anomalies. So who is coming late? Not if that person is coming late, is that person a regular latecomer? Let me understand why the person is coming late. Look beyond the narrow bias perspective. Anomalies could be a sign of future. Maybe the person is coming late not because he doesn't want to work, but probably because he is working for something else which kind of interests him or her. Or he's doing some family, spending some family time, which is critical for the person to be able to be more productive. I mean, these are different ways we need to understand the anomalies. May seem as challenge to current practices, but the perspective that we bring, the way we look at it, we'll be able to see that there is always a reason behind a behavior. We need to understand and go deeper into that behavior to understand the anomalies deeper. And so, for example, I've talked about absentees or latecomers. Is the work not challenging enough? Explore the deeper reason for the same. Even the anomalies reach on time early when it is of interest to them. Not all anomalies or people who are coming late can be labeled as irresponsible or lazy. Is there a genuine reason for being late or being absent? Is the work culture not motivating enough? I mean, there could be various reasons. We need to have that insights or the willingness to go deeper to understand the behavior as a CHRO. Are we missing on our super talent by generalizing and labeling apparent behaviors? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. In an effort to setting norms, are we getting too tight to the norms, making them our blinkers? Do we understand what I mean by saying blinkers? Blinkers means looking at, blinkers are the leather that are put on the horse's side. Yeah. And you just look, the horses just look at in a particular direction. They are not able to see around. And so it is important to understand that are we putting blinkers when we are looking at our policies and practices that we are driving in organizations, and demotivating performers, innovators, and future leaders. We need to be flexible, at the same time be visionary to look at the different needs, also go deeper and understand the reasons behind different actions and behavior, and not just follow the practices which are there or the norms that are there. So to think like a CHRO, we need to be sensitive, listen carefully. We have to not just keep our ears on the ground. We have to listen so carefully that we should be able to understand or predict the seismic changes below the ground level. When I'm saying below the ground level is something that people are not expressing. But many times you would have realized that all of a sudden the entire team in the organization has moved out. It is not a one-day decision. People are working behind the scenes. So those are the seismic sounds that you need to hear. Then only you will be able to be an effective CHRO. It is important to be aware of self, environment, business, and most important, people, emotions of people. You have to understand your biases, your limitations, your challenges as an individual, as a leader. the more you'll be aware of it, you'll be able to take care of that. At the same time, the environment and the business is not less emphasized. It is much very important. And also the people's emotions of people and their emotions. Be analytical, carefully analyze, because facts and figures have to be analyzed. Definitely, we have to understand the people metrics, the metrics that we are getting from the businesses, from the economic business environment, from the competitors, from other things. At the same time, what are the emotions and the causes of certain behaviors? So it's more of an analytical mindset that we need to create, where we are getting into not just knowing about the techniques of doing analysis, but also the approach to look at things. And those analytics have to be both number driven and softer or qualitative analytics that we call, because machines are unable to analyze emotions beyond the fact and data. The big data that we are talking about, we are talking about chat GPT, we are talking about various data, but still the bug is related to the emotions, the softer aspects. Machines will not be able to analyze the emotions behind the behavior. You can make machines learn. Your competitive advantage as a CHRO, to think like a CHRO, would be to listen to data and facts carefully, analyze those with an understanding and awareness of emotions behind. It is important to understand the emotions behind. So emotions are very important. Understanding emotions and behaviors of others is very important. Reasons behind it. Any questions? Any thoughts on this till now? Okay. So think like a CHRO. Business and business environment at present, when we are talking about business and business environment at present, is very complex, and it is going to be more complex because the entire world is shrinking. It has shrunk already, but now it is shrinking more. With virtual reality, with people being able to be in person, what is the technology called for training, where the holocaust of the individual is there and hologram. So it is going to be more complex. The most complex of all business resource is human resource. Therefore, CHRO has to be a very strong leader, as we talked about. And human resource has not just their own mind, what Ashmita had started in the beginning. It has the ability to instill thinking ability in machines too. So machines are also driven by human resources, human beings, and they are instilling the thinking ability in machines too. So it is important to manage the human resources. Facts, data, number definitely give insights, and they will help us to understand. But the softer aspects of human behavior just cannot be ignored. The heart bit, which often overpowers mind. Instill complex human feelings or heart in the machine seems to be impossible at present for me. I don't know. What is your view on this, Aman? So it is important for CHRO to think from heart, to connect with human resources heart. It is respect the diversity and versatility of the resource. Human resource is very diverse and very versatile. The more the mind, the more you use the mind, like when we talk about machine learning, yes, the more data we put in, the machine is learning. But still they have limitations of performance with whereas human mind is versatile. It can stretch to any extent. Therefore, human resource is the only key key resource for your competitive advantage of business. So how do you manage them effectively is the key for a CHRO. And therefore, one has to look very broadly. Do not chase or copy paste best practices, because best practices are best practices for that particular context and business environment. You have to create the best practices for your own business. Set of versatile humans that you are dealing with in your business context. Leverage the unique diversity of hearts and its feelings, because see, many times the facts and figures would fail the moment you have overpowered the heart of people. So yesterday itself, I was, I'm sure that many of you would have got that forward on WhatsApp. There is a diamond business man, and he is saying that how he engages people. He engages people by giving opportunity or taking their parents, people who are working in the organization, taking their parents for a particular trip, or taking them out and taking care of them to see places, go around and feel happy, which they would have never thought of in their lifetime for doing it on their own, the kind of service. So he is trying to connect to the hearts of the people. At the moment you're connecting to the hearts of the people, the trust factor would grow in leaps and bounds. The trust is very important. And the moment people are trusting, they'll give their best to the organization. So diamond, if you know about the diamond business works on trust. There is no written, khata or anything that is maintained. It is based on trust. If given to this person, the person will be given the right amount of money or will return the things which are not sold. So it is important to leverage the unique diversity of heart and its feeling. Last, but key ability to be an effective CHRO that I would say is needs to be having a comprehensive perspective. We all have understood that it is very complex to manage human resources, not just from the business in itself is in a complex situation and context, but human resources are much more complex resources that we are dealing with as a CHRO. So the comprehensiveness of perspective is very important for a CHRO to be an effective, and that is to understand the linkages and connectedness and the impact of one aspect on another, one decisions on another, one perspective on another. So it is very important to be aware. You may not be able to cover all perspective or be very comprehensive in everything, but the important is that you should be aware about what decisions you have taken, the reasons behind it, the assumptions that you have made, and the context in which you are making a particular decision. That is very important. So it is because decisions are all about choices that you make, and complexity of human resources makes a CHRO decisions full of gray. It is not black and white. It is not this is right, this is wrong. You have to make assumptions. You have to have reasons for taking your decisions. And the more you are comprehensive in understanding emotions, figures, facts, environment, context, the better you will be able to be an effective CHRO. So you have to think broadly and more comprehensively. Okay, with this, this is all that I have. I am open for more questions that you may want to ask.
Thanks, Tripti ji. I think lot of comments in the chat box. Very interesting discussions. I'm sure you would not have got a chance to see it.
No, I haven't seen it. Let me see that. Okay.
And I think in general, very perspective changing talk for me personally. In terms of the role shift that you spoke about, and how strategic the role has become to become more of a business role than just a people management role. So it's quite fascinating. So thank you so much. Yeah, but I'm sure others have a couple of thoughts and questions. So please feel free to get in.
Thank you, Saurav. Any doubts and anywhere you want to challenge me, please go ahead. I'll be very happy to answer that.
So we do have a couple of questions. I'll just read them out. So Karan is asking, how do we transform the culture of any organization and make it truly something that the workforce is proud of?
Okay, so what is culture? When we're talking about culture is the behaviors and the way things are done here. It's a common, I would say, perspective or common views of people working in the organization, the ways we are defining a particular way the things are done here. Now, the culture that we want to, the culture also keeps changing with new people coming in or new perspective coming in. The important thing about changing culture is that we should be able to keep up the culture with respect to the demand of the current business context. Now, how do we drive culture change? Culture change, we have 3 levels. You're talking about the individual mindsets behavior, these systems and processes that we are following, this policies, practices, systems, and then definitely in terms of how leadership, how behaviors, artifacts, different practices that we are setting. Now, to give an example, suppose if we are driving culture to become a collaborative, we want the organization to be a collaborative place to work, and everyone should collaborate and be able to perform effectively, because team working is important in the nature of job that is there. Now, from system perspective, the changes that we need to, or the review that we need to make is that are we awarding our people on the individual performance, or we are giving more weightage to team performance? The system perspective, when we are giving work, how are we defining the team? Who is forming the team? Are the people themselves defining the team, or we are giving a mandate that, okay, you 4 people have to work together? Is it a natural kind of a team performance by people with their own selection? So that is from the system perspective that is happening. Now, when we are looking at from the people mindset perspective, people would always want their individual behavior to be recognized, and people who are talented definitely would feel that they should be recognized. At the same time, when we are talking about too much of group collaborative culture, there would be people who would feel that they can be a free rider. Others are working because we are giving rewards and recognition to everyone in the team. If it is a team performance reward, I can definitely be a free rider and not do enough work for the group. How do we change that mindset of the individual, that you as an individual are losing out on your growth, your involvement in other projects, when you are not contributing enough with the team, or you are bringing down the entire team because you are not contributing or collaborating with the team? So that mindset change, the drive for that is very important. And definitely when we are saying that we want a collaborative culture, as leaders, we also have to demonstrate that we are also working in a collaborative way. We are also involving people to take decisions in the important decisions that we are making for business. So are we encouraging that? So, all levels we have to touch. At the same time, when I talk about artifacts or institutionalization of practices, it is important as to which practices, if we are talking, say, of collaborative practice, it could be simple that even if we are making a picnic is not where we are talking about a caterer coming and giving the food. Maybe we want it collaboratively to come from different people, different kinds of food, and collaboratively enjoy the variety that we have. So the whole mindset has to be focused towards the culture that we want to bring in, and every small nuances of the behaviors, the examples that we are setting, the systems and policies that are setting, that have to be looked from that lens. Is the lens that we are using for any decisions is around both as practice in collaborative nature and in decision in collaborative nature. So culture do not change, in one day. When we are talking about the organizational culture, the drastic culture change, there is another theory around drastic culture change, which is about changing people, changing the entire, bringing in a new set of leadership and people to bring in who are aligned to the culture that we would want to take. So there are immediate changes that are made. So tomorrow a leader has come, who takes decision, which is collaborative way approach to decision making. Or you change the mindset of the leader who is not taking a collaborative approach. The second way where we are talking about changing the mindset is a slow process. The changing of the leader is himself, or the practices, changing the policies, changing of the artifacts. These are slightly faster way to change culture, systems and processes. So that's a choice that the person, CHRO or the leaders who are driving the culture change, that they make, because they would not want people to get panic. They would want to retain good people who are assets for future. They would want to maximize the brand image that they are creating. They would want to see the future business image that they are creating. So many of the leaders would want to go the slow way. Many of the leaders would want to say, no, if we don't do a drastic change, it would be detrimental for the business success. So they may want to, or business to sustain life, business to survive in itself. So mostly the business leaders would go for drastic change when they have the requirement to survive, make the business survive. Usually that is the process. Any other?
Right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your take on that. We just have one more question. I know we have exceeded the time, but we'll just take one quick question. So Atisha asks, how does one go about hiring the right CHRO for their organization? As a founder of a growing firm, which qualities should I seek in my HR head?
Which qualities do you want to seek as an HR head? Okay. See what the main person who is looking for a CHRO is the business owner, or if you have already a board of governors or the CEO who are looking at it. Now, usually when the business leaders are choosing the right CHRO as a new startup, definitely one, whether the person aligns with the business goals, understands the business, is flexible enough to bring in, or is having a visionary approach, all the qualities that we are talking about. Visionary approach is able to keep the ears on the ground, is able to think, is not driven by what he or she has done in past, and that is the way to go about doing things, is analytical, looking at the situation and then giving answers, understands the time in which the work has to be done, time duration, because many a times, like what I'm talking about, changing culture, if we are so insistent on, no, this is the way the culture has to be changed and the organization doesn't survive, that doesn't work. So whether the person is ready to adapt to the context of the business or the decisions that is there, adaptability is very important. And definitely, how sound both as a coach or a mentor for people to develop people, and at the same time, a coach, I would say, in fact, a pure business leader can tomorrow, if the CEO is not there, can that person lead the business? That is the key things that I will say that you need to look at, depending on the nature of business that you are in.
Right. Thank you, ma'am, for answering that. So we are just nearing the closure of the session now. So I would like to hand over to our BOD's representation of the HR department to convey a vote of thanks to you. I would invite Ritika ma'am on the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Samiksha. Thank you so much. And thank you, ma'am. So on behalf of everyone present here, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to you for imparting your valuable knowledge and expertise during this session. And we appreciate your patience and willingness to answer all our questions and concerns, which help us to gain a better understanding of the subject matter. Once again, thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise and experience with us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Ritika. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you all. It was lovely talking to you.
Looking forward to meet you soon, Tripti ji, in Delhi.
Sure.
Looking forward to more sessions as well. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Right. Bye.
Bye.